Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Spring Sports Surplus. Today, my friend David Egan will be discussing some predictions for this year's upcoming MLB season. First off, David, who do you think is going to be the division winners starting the AL?
Well, Lexi, I think the AL East, the Yankees will have that on lockdown this season. Their young core, including Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge, and some of their guys in the minors, including pitcher Chance Adams, will send them to another division win. In the Central, I think it's going to be the Indians this year. They were so dominant last year in that 22-game span where they didn't lose a game. But I think the White Sox and the Twins will give them a run for their money. The White Sox with their young core, I just have a feeling about them this year. I don't know. I think they could really make a run. In the West, I think the Astros will have that on lock, and they'll have it unlocked for years to come. They have plenty of young talent, including George Springer, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa, and Jose Altuve, just to name a few. Their pitching might be a little shaky, but in the end, I think their bats will lead them to another division win. The wild card winners, I think, will be the Red Sox and the Twins. I think the Twins will beat out the White Sox for that second wild card spot, and the East will be so strong this year with the Yankees and Boston. So that will be right down to the wire, but I think the Yankees eventually pull ahead and Boston will have the first wild card spot, seeing the AL wild card game in Boston this year.
Now, David, who do you think the division winners are going to be in the NL?
Well, in the East, I think that's the Nationals, no doubt about it. I mean, every team in that division, except for the Nationals, is in the process of some sort of rebuild. They won the division by 20 games this past season. It wasn't even close. The only question is, though, is if they can make it past the division series this year, the playoffs. In the Central, I think, honestly, it's going to be the Brewers. I don't think the Cubs have the pitching to keep them atop the league unless they end up signing Arrieta again or maybe even a Yu Darvish. But I think the Brewers' young talent and their pure bats could get them to a Central win. And then in the West, I think it's the Dodgers, but it's going to be close. This past year, that was the strongest division in the NL, along with Arizona and the Rockies. The Dodgers were very strong. And you got to consider that one of their biggest parts of that team last year that got them to a World Series is Cody Bellinger, who was a rookie. So he's going to be seasoned. He's going to be ready. Can he hit 40 home runs again? I don't know. That's the question that everybody's looking for an answer for. Then as far as the wild cards go, I think it'll be Arizona, and then the Chicago Cubs will barely beat out the Colorado Rockies. I think the Cubs, it will come down to pitching between the Cubs and the Rockies, but I think the Cubs edge ahead in the final weeks of the season.
So, David, you're a Katy Perry fan, right? Who do you think your dark horse is going to be this year?
Lexi, I think my dark horse this year has got to be the Chicago White Sox. I've said plenty of times throughout the show, their young talent is unbelievable. Last offseason, when they traded Chris Sale to the Sox for Michael Kopech and Yohan Moncada, and Moncada was the number one prospect in baseball last year. I think those two have a good future in Chicago. I think the South Side is really going up, including they traded Todd Frazier, David Robertson, and Tommy Kahnle to the Yankees last season, mid-season, for outfield prospect Blake Rutherford and a few other guys. I think Rutherford has got a chance to crack their lineup. I don't know about this year, maybe in the coming years, though. But I could see the Sox next year building up some kind of run in the end of the season.
I couldn't agree more with you, David. So, last question here. This past year, total number of home runs hit in MLB was a record-setting of 6,105. Do you think this coming year will be less, just as many, or the same amount of home runs?
Well, Lexi, I think this past year was some sort of a freak year. I mean, there was 5 guys who hit 40-plus home runs, including 2 players who hit 50 home runs. which were Giancarlo Stanton, who was the NL MVP, and Aaron Judge, rookie sensation for the New York Yankees, who had 52. You can compare this season to 2014. Only one player that year hit 40 home runs, and that was Nelson Cruz. And then only 11 players that year hit 30 home runs. This past year, I'd say there was probably around 20, 19. So your answer to that question is there's going to be less. It's just got to be some kind of freak year.
Couldn't agree more with you, David. Sorry, we're all out of time for now, but tune in soon for another episode of Spring Sports Surplus. Love to have you on the show, David.
Just love being here, Lexi. Thanks so much for the time.